Everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. I think we are picking up from where we stopped 3 weeks ago. We couldn't meet last week due to the cyclone, but I'm glad we are able to converge again. Let's start with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for today. We pray for your guidance and more insight that should transform our agriculture sector to the glory of your name. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you. Well, today I'm so excited. We have a presentation from David. We just want to explore why Malawi and Israel, why there's a need for a collaboration in the agriculture sector. But before that, we will have a presentation from a young man who was in Israel, I think about 11 months. We just want him to share his experience for about 5 minutes and how that impacted his life in as far as agriculture development is concerned. So right now, let me hand over to Winston Nachiye. Winston, over to you. I'll let you introduce yourself and share with us how your experience was in Israel. Winston, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chifunelo Kandaya, for the opportunity which you have granted to me so that I can share the experience which I have had during my stay in Israel. Chifunelo, hopefully you are able to see my presentation, right?
Yes, we can see your presentation, please. Yes, okay, please go ahead.
As I have already said that my name is Winston Nachiye, but maybe people can be asking themselves that, who is this man? Winston Nachiye, he is a holder of BSc in Agriculture Economics, pending graduation, and a diploma in Agriculture General from Luana. And he is also a holder of a diploma in agriculture from Kilnet College of Agriculture in Israel. And this man also is a founder and owner of WEGO4H abbreviated as WEGO4H. And lastly, I am working with a solidarity organization as a field officer. Now I should start with the journey to Israel. Maybe a lot of people can be asking themselves that, what happened for myself to be in Israel, or maybe to go and visit Israel? First of all, there have been a collaboration between Israel and Malawian government from 2014, whereby students from Luana are allowed to go and do an internship and training program. Now, the process was somehow long for somebody else to be picked so that he or she can have this opportunity. First of all, you are supposed to have good grades in class. And after being recognized that you have good grades in class, you were allowed to attend some interviews. So it's like I did well again during the interviews. That's why this opportunity was granted for myself to go to Israel. So about the pictures of myself in Israel, you will see them at the end of my presentation. Now, during my stay in Israel, I have learned a lot of things, but I have just 5 of them here, which I can say they are main lessons learned during my stay in Israel. The first one is the power of cooperation and coordination. The people in Israel, they do believe working in groups or maybe working in cooperatives. For example, maybe they do farming, both crop and the livestock in a group. So it's like when these people come together with different expertise, or maybe somebody else who is good in marketing, or maybe someone else can be good in production, someone else can be good in managerial skills. When they come together, that's why I saw it that they were able to do their things in a good manner and be able to make a lot of profit. So maybe the same should apply in Malawi, so that maybe as youth, we should be able to have some youth cooperatives. The second thing is about time management. These people in Israel, they don't play around with time. When they say this time is for working, they mean it as business. For example, most of the people in Malawi, we do like this kind of character of managing time. For example, yesterday I was watching a certain clip on Facebook whereby a bus was stuck in mud. So it stayed there for maybe more than 4 hours. But you could see people being surrounding the bus, just waiting for it to come out from the mud. So you can just imagine being there for 4 hours plus is something else which shows that maybe we don't have some other things which we can do, or maybe we can utilize that time, which we always waste. So in Israel, I learned that I should be a good time manager. The other thing is about supervision. Supervision is very vital for good results. Most of the times, we have seen people in Malawi who owns maybe farms, or maybe who owns different businesses. But most of the times, these people, as the owners or maybe the managers, they do just stay in office without being on the ground, on the actual ground, supervising the activities. So in Israel, I could manifest this because we could always be with the boss together with us, doing what is required to be done. The other thing is cost benefit analysis. Cost benefit analysis makes your business to be more data driven and logical. For example, maybe the value chain of soy production. As a farmer who wants to venture into soya production, you have to look into account all the cost, maybe from point A up to the last point of production. And you should also be able to analyze the profits, maybe which can be attained after the production. And after that, having this in mind will help you to know if your business or maybe your farming will be operating under a loss or a profit. The last one is technology. These people, they are able to maybe to harvest, to have bumper use on a small piece of land, and also they do mechanize a lot. So, for example, that's why they are able to do this because these people, they do work in cooperatives. So it's very easy for them to gather some resources so that they can manage to maybe to buy some inputs for the mechanization and the likes. Maybe now I should take you through some life impacts from Israeli experience. Despite learning a lot of knowledge and
Winston.
yeah.
Hello,
Yes,
Winston. Yeah, so people asking to say if you can maybe switch on your video so that they can see you.
Okay. Wait.
Yeah, thank you.
Chifunio.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Yes, please.
I'm having a problem. I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's failing to start my
continue
video.
sharing your screen.
Okay, fine.
Okay, fine. You can continue sharing your screen then.
Are you able to see it?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So I said that I want to take you through some life impacts from Israel. Despite being there and learning a lot of knowledge concerning maybe agriculture and the likes, we are getting paid. So for the little which I got from there, from my savings, it has brought a great impact in my life because I have managed to start my own farm. As on my first slide, I said that I own a farm called WEGO4H. WEGO is an abbreviation which stands for We Go for Help. And this initiative is composed with a lot of activities. The first activity is agriculture, both crop and livestock. The second thing is agro-dealing, whereby maybe we'll be buying and selling crop products from farmers to some companies. The other thing is extension delivery, whereby we'll be disseminating a lot of information which can help farmers to have higher production, both on crop and livestock. And the last thing is charity works, whereby we'll be locating and assisting the needy and disadvantaged. We have incorporated these charity works because I have been one of the guys who have experienced maybe lacking fees or maybe lacking pocket money. So we decided that we should invest heavily in agriculture so that the revenue which can be collected from agriculture can help us to fund the charity works. But we have hope that as time goes on, the initiative will grow because we also allow some outsiders to partner with us. Here is the log of our farm, and here are the pictures of our farm. Currently, under agriculture, under crop production, we have done maize and soy. We have 5 hectares of maize and 5 hectares of soy. And under livestock production, we have started layering some pigs. Currently, we have 7 of them, 1 male and 6 females. And we're expecting to have 50 plus in 4 months' time, because on average, maybe each female pig can give birth to 10 piglets. So we have that hope that in 4 months' time, the number of pigs will increase. Now, I should just have a motivation to my fellow youth in Malawi. What I can say is that as youth, we should formulate some youth groups and do the following. One, we should complement each other. For example, gathering the little resources at our disposal. It is very possible to gather resources. I can give a very good example whereby maybe you can be 10 youth and each one of us can be able maybe for example to contribute 100,000 Malay kwash. And 10 of us, it can give us close to 1 million plus. And that's a good money, maybe to start something else on the ground, little by little. I have said this to formulate. I have said that we should formulate youth groups because you could see in my lessons learned in Israel, I have said that these people, they do cooperate and coordinate. They do work together. And if you can do the same thing, I think we can be able to produce something else viable. Then the other thing is identify a problem like need or a gap in our communities or maybe on a national level. And after that, we should identify customers' willingness about our product, which you want to be producing. Because this will help you to produce something else which will be liked by the customers. The other thing is competition analysis. Maybe before venturing into something else, you have to analyze the competition. You have to check the weaknesses and the strength of your competitors, because this will help you to make the weaknesses of your competitors as your strength. As you do so, I think you can have a great market base. The last one is you should identify the available skills and personnel within your group, so that you should, first of all, you should utilize those skills to produce your product, or maybe to do farming, or maybe to grow something else. In a nutshell, I can just say that as the youth, we should just remove the mindset that farming is not for the educated, because maybe most of us we do just stay idle, despite maybe finding something else in terms of capital, maybe money, but maybe we have that misconception that farming, it should be done for those people who are not educated. But I should tell you this: farming is for everyone. And if we venture into farming, I have that hope that things will be okay for our own. Lastly, I should finish with this: why Israel and Malawi collaboration? I can just say that this collaboration will aid economic growth from the grassroots to the national level. As I have already said, that most youth go to Israel and learn some things. And also maybe we have this kind of webinars whereby we're also learning some experiences from Israel. And from our last webinar, we could see that Israel relies much on agriculture. And agriculture sector is on top of every sector in Israel. So as we do this collaboration, I have that hope that more youth will learn some experience, some knowledge, some skills, which may help us to utilize the resources which we have at our disposal. Because in Malawi, we have good soils compared to Israel. We have more water compared to Israel. We have maybe good environment compared to Israel. But we are not able to make agriculture as a priority. As I'm finishing, I said that I will take you through some pictures of myself being in Israel. The first two pictures to the left is myself at the Jordan Valley, Jordan River, whereby people go and they get themselves baptized. While the right picture, the picture on the right is myself on the Western Wall in Jerusalem, whereby people go there with their prayer petitions written on a small piece of paper and put in the wall and pray over those prayer petitions. While this slide is showing myself during working hours in the dairy farm, whereby milk production takes place. But I think how everything happens at this place, this will be a story for another day. The last pictures to the left is it's a big farm for watermelons. While the right picture, it's a big farm for bananas, whereby these people, they do grow bananas in nets because of different reasons. So as I have already said that this will be a story for another day, but those are the pictures of myself being there. Lastly, I should thank you, Mr. Chifunilo, and your team for giving me this chance and opportunity so that I can share what I've learned and what is happening as of now. Thank you so much for listening.
Wow. Wow, amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much, Winston. We just thought that, having you sharing your personal story, your experience in Israel, how the knowledge you acquired has impacted your life. It would be kind of a groundbreaking, and I'm so glad we've seen the impact. Thanks for the wonderful pictures and wonderful presentation. Without wasting much time, let me now hand over to my colleague David. David is partnership manager, strategic partnership manager for Volcani International Partnerships. He would just want to share a presentation on why Israel Malawi collaboration as far as agriculture development is concerned. Over to you, David. Thank you.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. Let me just share my screen. Excellent. Can everyone see my the slides?
Yes.
Perfect. Excellent.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here. As Chifunira mentioned, my name is David Chapot. I work with an organization called Volcani International Partnerships. Before I get started, I just want to say a few quick things. Firstly, just a quick word of thanks to Chifuniro for chairing the webinars. Also, thank you to all my fellow panelists. It's great to hear from you all. Thank you to all of you for attending. And obviously, thank you to all the organizations that we've been working with to run these webinars, but also as part of our broader work in Malawi. And that includes organizations like GIZ, like the National Youth Council of Malawi, like EYA, like the Center for Ecological Intelligence based out of the University of Johannesburg, and last but certainly not least, Charis Consult and Invest. Before we get started, I did also just want to say a few quick words on behalf of Volcani International Partnerships, just about how saddened we were to see all the reports and the images coming out of Malawi in the wake of the cyclone. Our thoughts and prayers are really with all of you. Malawi is a country that's really occupies a special place in our hearts. It's a big part of where we want to be working as an organization, and it was just heartbreaking to see all of that. But it was also actually really inspiring, because I cannot tell you the number of messages and emails that I received from stakeholders, from people in Malawi telling us, look, this is dreadful, but we're going to rebuild. Keep doing what you're doing, because we're going to rebuild better, and agriculture is a key part of this. And I think it's just a huge testament to the level of commitment and grit and patriotism that we see time and time again whenever we work with people from Malawi. So our thoughts and prayers are very much with you all. I'll move on now to today's presentation. And in a nutshell, today we're just going to do two things. The first is I'm just going to give a very, very quick recap, very, very quick summary of the first webinar, just because it touched on some really important points. If any of you missed that webinar, by the way, it's available on YouTube. If you look in the emails, you receive the reminder emails, the link is in there. I highly encourage you all to go and watch it. It's a great webinar. It's really worth the time. But I'll just give you a very quick recap of that. But then we'll spend the bulk of the time talking about basically the topic for today, which is why Malawi and Israel? Why is it that we think that there's huge potential for agricultural collaboration in between these two countries? So in terms of a quick recap, the first session 3 weeks ago was basically an introduction to Israeli agriculture. And my colleague Danielle basically explained that Israel isn't really a particularly sensible or natural place to do agriculture. It faces a whole host of challenges and issues that make it particularly challenging to do agriculture successfully. And if you look at the slide, you can see some of them on there, absence of land, lack of fertile soil, really severe water scarcity, all of which are huge challenges if you're trying to do agriculture. But somehow, in its short history, Israel, despite those challenges, has emerged as an agricultural powerhouse, as a country that now boasts record-breaking yields in a number of different crops, like citrus, like tomatoes. Israel boasts the most productive dairy cows in the world, but also a whole host of other sort of achievements. For example, in terms of desert agriculture, 40% of Israel's vegetables, for example, are grown in the desert. Now, for us as an organization at Volcani International Partnerships, our work, our mission is to take all this expertise, experiences, know-how, research, technologies, the whole lot the very best that Israel has to offer, and to share that with communities across the world and for the benefit of those communities. Which actually brings us to today's session, to the question that we're looking at today. Why Malawi and Israel? Why is it that we believe, for example, that actually there's huge amounts of potential for agricultural collaboration in between Malawi and Israel? And the short answer is for at least two key reasons. The first is relevant expertise, know-how, innovations, and the second is really valuable experiences that can be learned from Israel and applied in the Malawian context. And I'm going to speak about these now. The first is the relevant expertise, and I'm going to keep this short because Danielle actually spoke a fair bit about this during the first webinar. But I just want to give a few quick examples. And in a nutshell, all this really is, all I'm really saying is that Israel has developed solutions and acquired some hard-won expertise in topics that are relevant to Malawi. And I'll just give you a few quick examples. One example is aquaculture, which is set to become more and more relevant to Malawi in light of the growth in the Malawian population, but also the depletion that we're seeing in terms of Lake Malawi. And incidentally, aquaculture is an area where Israel has a particularly strong track record. From the very inceptions of the State of Israel, it's practiced aquaculture. Most of the fish produced in Israel is produced through aquaculture. And actually, there's some really fascinating research happening in Israel at the moment in terms of increasing yields or reducing the amount of water used in aquaculture, all of which is really exciting and really powerful and important for both Israel and Malawi. A second area is water. Quite obviously, questions and issues around water use, around water efficiency, around how we can manage the scarcity of water or manage extreme weather events like droughts, for example, all of which are unfortunately challenges that are faced by Malawian farmers. But they are also challenges faced by Israeli farmers that have to deal with really severe water scarcity. And actually, Israel has developed a whole range of solutions, of technologies, of expertise, of know-how, like ranging from drip irrigation to sensors or smart farming or soil inputs that can be added in, all of which help to actually manage this issue and to really have a robust water management use in agriculture. Another one is soil and sustainability. One statistic I read that I really stayed with me was that 60% of Malawi's soil is affected by either erosion or nutrient loss. So obviously this is a huge challenge for the development of the agricultural sector. But it's also a challenge that actually Israel has faced. Israel is renowned for growing in particularly challenging circumstances and has developed some solutions to be able to do this successfully. And there's some really exciting research happening at the moment in specialized research centers, for example, like the model, Volcani's model farm for sustainable agriculture, which is situated in the north of Israel. In progress. And the final one I would just say is post-harvest management, which is, as I understand it, a challenge for Malawian farmers. It leads to waste, it leads to missed economic opportunities, but incidentally is also an area where Israel has particular expertise and does remarkably well. So, for example, the world average for grain loss in storage is roughly 20%. In Israel, that is 0.1%. There's some research that's been conducted at Israel's Volcani Institute, which has managed to extend the shelf life of cassava from roughly 48 hours to a few months. So we're talking about, huge developments in this field. Now, again, this is really not a comprehensive list. All I'm really saying is that basically some of the pain points that exist for Malawi are actually, they overlap with some of the pain points that Israel has experienced. And actually, Israel has developed this expertise, innovations, and solutions that could add value in Malawi. Now, obviously, just a really important point, a really important caveat, I'm absolutely not advocating for just copy and paste. You can't simply lift the practices in Israel and apply them in Malawi, because it's a different context, it's a different environment. But nonetheless, there's this huge opportunity to be able to work together to tackle some of these shared challenges. So that was the expertise, the relevant expertise. It now brings me to what is actually going to be the main body of today's presentation, which is around valuable experiences. And basically, Israel has not only developed specific expertise, but through its agricultural transformation, has actually learned some lessons, learned some models, had some experiences that really drove its agricultural success, that are hugely important and that can be very, very relevant in Malawi. And Danielle, my colleague, 3 weeks ago, sort of showed you this slide and gave a sort of like very quick kind of like one sentence introduction to each of these. Each of these are some of the key drivers behind Israel's agricultural success. And what we're going to do today is we're actually going to look at them in a bit more detail, one by one. And in each case, we're going to look at what it is, how it works, how relevant and important was it, but also how relevant and important can this be for Malawi. Now, the first one is a farmer-centered innovation model. And this is really, really crucial. It's crucial because it answers the question, how did Israel overcome its challenges? How did Israel unlock new commercial opportunities? And what you can see here on the slide is something that's known as the golden triangle. And all it really is it shows you the interaction between key players in Israel's agricultural sector and how they worked together for the purpose of targeted innovation. And what we're going to do now is just look at each of these players in turn. Right at the top of the triangle, you can see national R&D. Now, in the context of Israel, that was primarily driven by the Volcani Center, which is Israel's national and leading agricultural R&D center, which was originally sort of fully funded by government and is a truly phenomenal institution. It has over 200 researchers split across 6 specialized institutes like plant protection, agricultural engineering, post-harvest management, etc. And the remit, the mission of the Volcani Center was to serve the needs of Israeli farmers. And that's a really, really important point. So, for example, researchers aren't just assessed on the quality of their research, for example. They're assessed on how useful is it, how relevant is it, does it help the farmers in their day-to-day practices in terms of running their business. And I'll give you a very, very quick example, actually, which is the example of jojoba, which is a relatively new crop in Israel. And when it started to gain in popularity, a lot of farmers went straight to some of the researchers at Volcani and said, look, this is relatively new to us, but we think there's a commercial opportunity here, but we don't really know how to farm this properly. We don't really have a growing protocol. We don't really know how best to proceed with this. So what Volcani did is it created a consortium of 10 different researchers, and then they applied to the government for a funding grant, which they received of $500,000. And they focused for 3 years on developing a crop growing protocol, a growing protocol for jojoba that could then be used directly by Israeli farmers. And actually, a fun fact for you, now about half the world's jojoba is produced in the deserts of Israel. The second key player here that you can see at the bottom left is regional R&D. And what I mean by that is Israel has 8 local R&D centers scattered across the country. And basically their role is to take the innovations that have been developed by Volcani, by the national R&D, and adapt them to local conditions. So they're really helping farmers not just to access the solutions, but to be able to implement them and use them in their local context and circumstances and environments in the best possible way. Another key player that you can see at the bottom right is extension officers. Now, this was an early priority for Israel, and it was something that the government invested in quite early on. And as a result, Israel has a comparatively large number of extension officers compared to a lot of other countries. So, for example, at the moment in Israel, there's one extension officer for around 110 farmers. That's a very different picture from a lot of other countries, including countries in Africa, for example, where you can often find ratios of, one extension officer for 3,000, for example, farmers. I think the figure I saw for Malawi is one extension officer for anywhere between 1,500 and 2,200 farmers. The other key, some key sort of characteristics about Israeli extension officers. One is they're highly specialized. So they really tend to focus specifically on a crop or a crop family, for example, rather than being generalists. They're also really, really encouraged to be out in the field. Their job is to be side by side in the field with farmers, not necessarily in their offices. Another really interesting point is that part of their work, part of what they do, the sort of like it's almost a kind of like accidental byproduct of their work with farmers, is that they encourage farmers to think not about competition between each other. So you're not necessarily competing with your neighboring farm, but actually of them competing together against, for example, farmers in Portugal or Spain, for example, with whom they're competing for exports. And what that leads to actually is a really interesting and really rich and beneficial level of cooperation in between farmers in Israel. And the final point that I would say just about extension workers in Israel is the fact that they are connected to research. So as you can see, this is a triangle. Or each point is connected with the others and engaging with the others. There's actually a key player that's missing from this slide. I always joke that it should be more of a golden square, but it doesn't quite work as well. And that's the private sector, which in Israel is also really important in terms of developing new solutions, but crucially in terms of actually scaling them by commercializing them, by sharing them, by making them readily available to farmers and to people, relevant companies and organizations. And at the heart of this, at the heart of all this interaction, all this work, are the farmers. Everyone is engaging directly with the farmers. The whole work of all these different players is to serve the need of the farmers. And that's a really important and a really powerful takeaway from this. So why did it work so well in the context of Israel? Well, there's a few different reasons. Israel is quite an interesting country in the sense that it's actually quite non-hierarchical. There's no sense of a farmer shouldn't necessarily be calling up like a leading researcher, for example. Israeli farmers have absolutely no problem in doing this. They will just reach out directly to extension officers, to researchers, to companies, whatever it may be. And actually that's really beneficial because it creates these very clear and direct lines of communication between the different players, the different stakeholders in Israel's agricultural sector. The other key thing here that means that it works really, really well, that the Golden Triangle works really well, is the fact that it encourages multidisciplinary teams to work together. And the result of this, of having farmers with post-harvest experts, with plant protection experts, etc., all working together on a specific problem, the result of this is that it leads to really powerful out-of-the-box solutions that tend to work really quite well. And so why is this important? Why was the Golden Triangle so important? Well, for a number of reasons. Firstly, it ensured that Israeli researchers, for example, were tackling the right problems. They were focusing their research and their efforts on the problems that were actually pain points for Israeli farmers. It also led to the development of appropriate solutions. So if you have farmers involved in the innovation process, they can tell you directly if something that you're suggesting just won't work in the field. So the solutions developed tend to be appropriate. It also helps to increase the level of dissemination. If farmers are involved in the innovation process, then you've secured their buy-in. They've seen that this works. They've been part of the team that developed it. So obviously they're going to have fewer reservations and less of a sense of risk to actually run with these solutions and implement them. And finally, what's really important is that it creates new commercial opportunities for the agricultural sector. And the reason I've got this quite appetizing photo of basil and cherry tomatoes there on the side is because actually basil is a really interesting example of this, of the golden triangle in action. Because a few years ago, farmers in the north of Israel basically realized that basil was a very interesting commercial opportunity for them. They could export it to Europe, especially during the winter months, when actually in Europe it was too cold for the farmers there to be able to grow it themselves. The problem was that actually in the north of Israel, at night, during the day the temperatures were fine, but at night the temperatures would drop slightly below where they had to be in order for the farmers to be able to successfully cultivate basil. So what they did is they reached out directly to researchers, to extension officers, etc., to work together on developing a solution, a cost-effective solution that would allow them to heat their greenhouses so they could actually produce basil during the winter months and export it to Europe. The researchers looked at a whole host of different solutions, but ultimately what they kind of landed on was this idea of creating these sort of like plastic tubes that they would fill with water. And during the day, the water would take in the heat and hold the heat. And then at night, progressively, it would release the heat back out into the greenhouses and increase the level of the temperature in the greenhouses. And they tried this with the tubes lying down. It didn't quite work well enough. So what they did is they actually put them slightly at an angle, and that worked very well because the heat was sort of disseminating higher up in the greenhouses. And it worked amazingly. This very cheap, very simple, very sort of effective out-of-the-box solution worked very well. And the farmers, there's this funny anecdote that the farmers originally just simply didn't believe the researchers that this worked. And actually what the researchers had to do is they invited the farmers out in the middle of the night in one of the research stations with a thermal camera so that they could see themselves that actually the temperature in the greenhouse was actually staying within the kind of range it had to be. But that's a really interesting example of all these different players working together to create solutions that are targeted to the needs of Israeli farmers. So what's the relevance of this for Malawi? Well, the relevance is that one of the key objectives for Malawi, and this is actually something that we find in the Malawi 2063 strategy, is to increase the productivity of agriculture. And this is exactly what the Golden Triangle does. It creates cooperation, collaboration between the relevant key stakeholders to increase productivity and to overcome specific challenges. The second key driver of agricultural success in Israel was this conception of agriculture as a business. And for those of you who were at the first webinar, you might remember Danielle explained this expression of thinking not in terms of food security, but in terms of Toyota security, in terms of the amount of money that you can make. And this is just another quote here from an Israeli stakeholder. This man is the head of the crop production and marketing boards, talking about the importance of viewing agriculture as a business. This idea that it's essential to focus on where you have a market and where you can make money. If you don't have money, you can't do anything. And in the Israeli experience, really what this was is that the market, and when I say the market, I mean both the domestic market, but also international exports, acted as a guiding star. It acted as a guiding star for government. It helped government to prioritize crops and to shape the kind of policies that it needed. So for example, throughout the years, depending on the levels of market demand and profitability, Israeli farmers shifted the kinds of crops that they were growing based on market demand. And each time they did that, this went hand in hand with investment from government and research conducted by government to support the farmers in doing this. So you see here in government, the market was a guiding star. It was also a guiding star for research. As I've mentioned, one of the roles of research in Israel is actually to unlock new commercial opportunities for farmers. And then it is scaled up by industry that's able to go and commercialize it. And there's an interesting example, which is the example of pomegranate. In the early 2000s, the production of pomegranates in Israel was really quite low and not doing particularly well, not really able to compete internationally. And actually, the researchers of Volcani developed a prototype of a machine that could automatically peel the pomegranates. And this was then scaled by industry. But what it did is that it all of a sudden made the production of pomegranates much more profitable for farmers because they could sell products where there was a level of value addition. They could sell the directly just pomegranate seeds or pomegranate juice, for example, and it made the whole sector much more profitable. And as a result, you had a surge in tree planting. So, for example, Israel, it went from about 300 hectares focused on pomegranates to over 2,000 hectares, thanks to research and industry, again, using the market as a guiding star. And the final sort of key player that had a really important role here in the market is the crop production and marketing boards. Now, these in Israel they're boards that are crop specific. So, for example, you'll have one on dates, one on citrus, one on dairy, on beef. They're chaired by the Minister of Agriculture, but they involve a whole host of different stakeholders like farmers, extension officers, researchers, etc. And they have a really important role because they do two things. Firstly, they connect the farmers to market. So the farmers can get information about prices, quantity, quality, the level of standards they have to abide by, etc., through those marketing boards, which is really, really important to them in order to pursue commercial opportunities. The other one is that it acts as a mechanism to identify and define and prioritize problems that need to be addressed through research, for example. And I'll just give you two very, very quick examples. One is, for example, the marketing boards played a role when Israel was producing cotton in terms of creating loans for the relevant kind of machinery so that actually the cotton could be ginned and could be sold at a higher value on the markets. Similarly, these boards invested in research in different varieties of citrus so that actually Israel could compete in specific niches in the citrus market. And why is all of this relevant to Malawi? Well, again, it's a really important, crucial lesson for Malawi because as Malawi's largest economic sector, agriculture has huge potential for the creation of growth, for the creation of employment across Malawi. The third driver that was really important to Israel was mindset. And I think Danielle, 3 weeks ago, mentioned something we call the pioneer mindset, which in a nutshell is very much kind of like captured in this quote you can see here. This idea that nothing is impossible until we prove it's impossible. This real dedication to success, no matter the cost. But what exactly do we mean by that? Well, it's a few different things. One of it is around commitment. So, for example, Israel is an interesting one because it was really driven by this ideology of Zionism, which in turn places a particular emphasis and importance on the land, on stewardship of the land. Agriculture becomes a national mission that everyone is sort of called upon to work towards. So there's this real commitment to agriculture and to agricultural success. Another one is entrepreneurship. Some of the key qualities we associate with entrepreneurship, like, risk taking, thinking outside the box, for example. All of these are really present in Israel and played a really important role in how it achieved success. And the third is leadership, especially leadership amongst young people. And actually, I'll give you a quick example, which is the little design piece you can see there on the side. That's the design piece of the Nahal brigades, which is a part of the Israeli army. And as some of you may know, there's mandatory military service in Israel. And actually, the Nahal program, which was created by Israel's first prime minister, David Ben-Gurion, actually what it did is it combined military service with agricultural leadership. So they would recruit key agricultural leaders and embed them within agricultural communities, and they would give them support like training and extension and access to funding and technology and equipment, etc., so that they could become pillars of agricultural growth in their community. So they could succeed, but they could help their community succeed as well. And through these kinds of leadership programs, like the Nahal program in and of itself in Israel, created over 100 agricultural communities. So this idea of harnessing mindset and harnessing leadership was really, really powerful. And why is this relevant to Malawi? For a key reason, because the youth is a fantastic resource for Malawi. Malawi's in this enviable position of having a huge reservoir of young people who are motivated and ambitious and committed, and who can help to drive this forward. The next one, and I'll speed up because I'm conscious I'm running out of time, but the next one is government support. From the very beginnings of the creation of Israel, there was this very real commitment at the highest levels of Israeli government towards agriculture, driven in part by ideology, but actually also in part by the fact that a lot of Israel's first leaders were farmers. David Ben-Gurion, Israel's first prime minister, was a farmer. Half his cabinet were farmers. So they really understood directly, actually, the challenges and the potential that agriculture held for Israel. And this enabled them to do four things. The first was to show strong leadership, to undertake big, expensive infrastructure programs, for example, that set the foundations for Israel's agricultural success. These were hard decisions to take politically, but they did it because they showed leadership. It also enabled them to support farmers. So, for example, to make grants available to farmers that were hugely important in terms of developing specific value chains. It also enabled them to be consistent in their policies, to focus investment on the same kind of crops, the same kind of areas, the same kind of projects over time, so that actually the work that they were doing to develop Israeli agriculture was coherent over time. And finally, this level of commitment helped them to coordinate really effectively. There was this kind of whole of government approach where agriculture wasn't really just seen as being the business of the agricultural minister. It was seen as being the business of the whole cabinet. And these are just a couple of sort of examples to show this really. On the left-hand side there, you can see a photo of this is former Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, who was also a farmer. And who again, showed real leadership in 2001 in the wake of a drought to actually just completely change Israel's water strategy and start investing in things like desalination plants that now have allowed Israel's success in terms of water scarcity. And Israel, despite facing water scarcity, actually now exports water to some of its neighboring countries. And you can also see on the right-hand side there a quote that I love from Shalom Simchon, who was a former Minister of Agriculture, where he shows really the level of involvement of government in the agricultural sector. The next key driver is farmer organization. And Winston mentioned this, and it's a really important point, that Israeli farmers don't farm in isolation. They don't work alone. They are organized. They band together. Now, this can come in many different shapes and forms. It can be kibbutzim, which are these kind of cooperatives that are sort of founded on really almost sort of socialist ideas where everything is shared. There's a central planning committee that tells farmers what to plant and how much to plant, etc. But then they sort of work together and pool all their resources. So that's the kibbutzim. There's also the moshavim, which are also cooperatives, but work with a slightly higher level of private ownership. So, for example, families still own land. They can still decide the crops that they're going to grow, but the equipment they use is still owned and shared across the cooperative. And some of the functions like marketing, for example, are done by the cooperative. And obviously there are also private farms, but even those private farms were organized under the Farmers Federation of Israel. And then all of these again were sort of under the aegis of the Israel Farmer Federation. And this is really important for a number of reasons. The first is it increases the bargaining power of farmers. So it makes Israeli farmers less vulnerable. It also enables farmers to diversify. So a lot of kibbutzim actually created companies that were doing other things, but so they had these alternative income streams coming in as well. Netafim, which is a really famous Israeli company which first developed and pioneered and commercialized drip irrigation systems, was created in an Israeli kibbutz where they didn't just want to farm, they actually also started creating their own irrigation material and selling it. So it also enables diversification. It enables economies of scale to really, be able to take advantage of pooling your resources. And it also facilitates the dissemination of information. It makes it much easier to share best practices or new solutions or new growing protocols if farmers are organized. And the key lesson here is that I don't think it necessarily matters so much how you're organized. As you can see, even in Israel, there were these different models and they all worked to varying degrees in varying ways, but just how important it is for organization and aggregation as a driving principle that can really help to secure agricultural success. And how is this relevant to Malawi? Well, very much because I believe that there is huge potential for Malawian farmers to collaborate, to cooperate, to band together, to organize, to aggregate in a variety of different ways, possibly completely different ways to the way Israel did it, but nonetheless to organize for their benefit and to help drive agricultural success. I'm terribly sorry I've ran over, but that's it. That was my presentation, and I hope you'll walk away from this thinking, yes, actually, I really understand why Malawi and Israel, because clearly, whether it's expertise on the right kind of topics or experiences and drivers that work very well in Israel and can work very well in Malawi, there's clearly huge scope for cross-pollination, for partnership, for collaboration between Israel and Malawi. Thank you all for your time. By all means, follow us on LinkedIn or add me on LinkedIn or whatever it is. We're more than happy to answer any questions, but I'll hand back over to Chifuniro now. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, David. I think today it was a bit deeper. It was a bit deeper. Thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation. There's a lot that personally I've learned. Right now, I think there's an element that I want us to learn from a Malawian researcher who is right here with us. I would like us to welcome Professor Elijah Wanda. We thought of bringing Professor Wanda for two reasons. Number one of the key topics that David has just shared was on the role of research and development. The role of research and development. We have such kind of platforms here in Malawi where young farmers, young people can get research-based knowledge from. That's number one. And the other thing is from Professor, how do we intend to tap into the Israeli expertise and research in Malawi's agriculture sector? For your information, Professor Wanda, apart from being a lecturer at Mzuzu University, also served as a Director General of National Commission for Science and Technology, and he has been highly involved in the national research platforms. So we felt bringing him on this platform would be so relevant. Professor Wanda, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Chifuniro. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can, yeah.
Yes, we can, yeah.
Okay, fine. And I hope participants have seen me because I'm operating on a very low bandwidth. We are having a challenge of power. So I would love if I could be allowed to speak without my video on. Okay. Yeah, so as Chifuniro said, thanks so much once again, Chifuniro, but also thanks so much all the panelists and David in particular, because I think you have clearly highlighted some of the issues that I was about to point out, especially on the, what this Israel-Malawi partnership has to offer in terms of improving agricultural productivity in the country. Yeah, so my name is Elijah Wanda. I'm the associate professor in the Faculty of Science, Technology and Innovation at Mzuzu University, particularly from the Department of Chemistry. So I'm a chemist by profession, but of my PhD was on nanotechnology and material chemistry. So maybe I'll start with the background. Mzuzu University was established by an Act of Parliament in 1997 as a public institution of higher learning, but also research. So the Act of Parliament of 1997, it sets out as a base for the general powers and functions of the university. So basically, the university is there to advance knowledge and promote wisdom and understanding by engaging teaching, research, technology, and innovation, but also providing platforms for dissemination of research, technology, and innovations, also promotion and preservation of learning as well, but also engaging in such university education, research, technology, and innovation, which is responsive to the needs of Malawi, the needs of Africa, but also the needs of the whole world. So basically, the university strives to do this by offering education that is of high standards. But in addition to that, we also provide complementary services to meet the technological, social, and economic needs of individuals and communities in Malawi. And the agriculture is one of those needs. As we know that, we have the MW 2063, and one of the pillars there is the agriculture productivity and commercialization. And maybe in my view, I look at it as possibly an overarching pillar, because with the advancement in agriculture productivity and commercialization, you can have the second pillar, industrialization, but also urbanization being achieved in a way. So the university in this case is well placed, because it would serve as a platform where we could have the encouragement and advancement of dissemination of research, technology, and even innovations. But it also provides a platform to respond to the needs of Malawi, but also the needs of the world at large. And then it also provides a platform through the complementary services to meet technological and socio-economic needs as well, to offer maybe short courses that would also contribute to human capital development in as far as the country, but also a wide range of challenges like agriculture and others are concerned. Yeah, so the Mzuzu University currently, it has 6 faculties. So you have the Faculty of Environmental Sciences.
Professor.
Yeah.
Professor.
Yes.
I think we're thinking maybe we just go straight to, I think, the topic of discussion, to say that number one, how as a university and maybe institution of higher learning here in Malawi, how can young people, somebody is in Ntalile, I've just received a message right now. Somebody is in Hodagoda saying, how do we have such kind of opportunities to access research that we can use in the agriculture activities? So we wanted that part more especially. And what are we doing in order to tap into the Israeli expertise as institutions of higher learning and academia, maybe research institute here in Malawi? So those 2 questions, we wanted just to go straight, and then we should open the floor for questions. Thank you. Over to you.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So I think let me really go straight. Yeah. So one of ways is to promote possibly the bilateral partnerships through research, technology, and the innovations that would promote agricultural productivity. And then we would also think through the bilateral partnerships, maybe we would come up with joint research programs between Israel and Malawi. And then we would also have training programs and even capacity building. Yeah, these are for both Malawians and other stakeholders within the formal and informal sector, maybe even accommodating the one you're talking about, the one from Ntalile or whatever, but also exploring some visits maybe this could be exchange visits. Either experts from Malawi would go to Israel, and then Israelis they would also come to Malawi in that case. And then through scholarships as well, where we could have scholarships being offered both to the formal and the non-formal actors as well, so that we also contribute to human capital development, as it were. And then I also look at maybe launching like pioneer programs in that case, which would also be used as a platform to kind of promote innovations, maybe incubate innovations, and even upscale the innovations. And along with that, then we could have innovation programs. For example, Mzuzu University has got a wide range of centers of excellence, which offers an opportunity for both development of new programs, but even uptake and even upscaling new technologies and even innovations. So this is also an opportunity. And then we could also like maybe think about the Frame 3 initiative, where we will look at now the role of research in socioeconomic development, because there has been calls from the general public that in most cases, the research that is done in universities, especially in Malawi, they just end up in the shelves. They're not used. So we need to find means and ways of translating the research outputs, technological outputs, maybe innovations as well into practice, so that those ones could be of value and they could be used to contribute towards national transformation, but also wealth creation, but taking the opportunities that exist through this Israel and Malawi partnerships, as it were. So maybe finally, what I can talk about is that, through the existing faculties of the university, we have an opportunity where we could add value, especially on issues of maybe agriculture value chain through our Department of Agri-Sciences. And then we could also promote maybe agri-enterprises, agri-entrepreneurships, involving the youth and all other interested stakeholders within Malawi. And then through our ICT, maybe we could leverage on the role of the fourth industrial revolution, promoting issues of artificial intelligence, how we can use these to ensure that, we also improve and maybe add value to the way we are doing things at the moment. And then through the Department of Chemistry as well, maybe that's where you can promote issues of nutrient enhancement. The cost of fertilizer, for example, is becoming high. How do we upscale some of the known solutions that could lead to issues of nutrient enhancement, plant protection, even value addition? Malawi is known for exporting very raw products, and as a result of that, even if you're involved in agri-entrepreneurship, you don't earn as much. How do we leverage on the expertise that we have to promote value addition, so that we're able to fetch more and possibly contribute towards the socioeconomic development of the country, but also improving the livelihoods of Malawians, as it were. Maybe because of time, I would stop there. Thanks so much, Chifuniro, and thanks so much, David, and thanks so much all the panelists and all the participants. Thank you.
Oh, amazing. So if we have got young people here, I think David emphasized on the role in the A section. You can post your questions there. We'll be able to respond. Let me just get a few. So there is a question, Geoffrey Machonjo. So he has to say, hey, are we going to have a webinar that will discuss on specifically the formation of at what stage of these webinars will cooperatives be formed? Was it in our hands? So it's in our hands. It's in our hands at the webinar. And reach out to us. We can link you up to some Malawi.
Apologies, everyone. I think we've lost.
Sorry.
No, Chifunera, you're back.
Yeah, sorry, I lost everyone. So what I'm saying is you can reach out. We'll link you up to Malawian institutions. Some have been established by government, some are development partners. They can assist you in formation of to form your cooperatives. So that's the kind of assistance I think that will be able to facilitate. I think another question. Are you sharing the recordings? Absolutely. Yes, we are sharing the recordings. Another comment from Emmanuel Ligoto. Just a comment. Today's presentation is just eye-opening, and I see it as groundbreaking for young people. If we can effectively use these tools as young agripreneurs, we can change our agriculture landscape. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. To Professor Wanda, how can young entrepreneurs tap from university knowledge, research, and possibly translate it into action? Professor Wanda, would you like to take that one? Professor?
Hello. Yes, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. There's a question here. Yes, there's a question saying, how can young entrepreneurs tap into the university research and translate it into action?
Okay. Thanks so much. Of course, it's a very good question, but you know, what we need to do is that I think we need to work together as partners. You know, all the citizenry, the youths, and everybody else. We have to work as partners in development. In most cases, I think us from the academia, we have been accused of possibly working in isolation. Yeah, one of the reasons is that I think there are maybe very weak like working relationships between maybe academia on one hand, maybe the public on the other hand, and even the private sector on one hand. So possibly we need to break laws and work together. When we have research outputs, possibly we need to find platform where we can share them. You know, the research technologies and innovations, you know, these are like brothers, sisters, and cousins. You generate the science, for example, through very basic research. And then if you utilize that, you would lead to formulation of technologies. And if you utilize the technologies, then you lead to innovations. Yeah, so you have that value chain from the science, from the technology, and from the innovation. But now, putting all those in practice, we need to join hands between, you know, the academy, the citizenry, and the youth. And, you know, we are lucky that, you know, the population of Malawi is very youth-centric. And even the MW 2063, it recognizes the fact that, you know, the Malawi population is very youth-centric. So whatever initiatives we are thinking about, we need to ensure that we take the youths on board. And, you know, the university, through its outreach programs, and even through its provision of complementary services, we are very keen to work with the youth through provision of short courses, maybe the dissemination conferences, but also coming up with maybe participatory community-based initiatives, or maybe citizen science-based initiatives, so that as much as possible, the youths who are in the majority, they're taken on board, but they also actively participate in socioeconomic development and transformation of the country. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much for the answer. Now, I think one of the goals why we're having these webinars are just like drumming up for a big event scheduled in April 20th. Likely if dates don't change, 20th April, it'll be here in Lilongwe. We'll have a youth in agribusiness symposium, and we're excited to share that representatives from Volcani International Partnerships will be here in person. They'll be here in person just to share more light on how they are so much willing to transfer Israeli expertise to Malawian young people. So with that in mind, would like you to keep watching. I think those of you who are not on our WhatsApp group, would like to encourage you to be part of that. We'll post a lot of information there. We're posting a lot of information there. Sure. And one of the things that will happen is during the symposium, we'll be linking up young agripreneurs to different stakeholders, to different players in the agribusiness ecosystem. Sure. Thank you so much. I think let me just take the last questions. So one of the key drivers on David's presentation was market, which is there been big challenge here in Malawi. How can the youth be helped to access these markets? I believe markets will be a very big motivator to the youth to increase productivity. Beatrice, thank you so much. I think in line with I think in response to your question, we have deliberately created a forum, the one that I'm referring to, on 20th April. It'll be next month. We'll be able to lay out some of the platforms or structures that have been created, more especially for young people in agriculture, just to make sure that we try to break the challenge of lack of market access. So I think that one will also be tackled during the agribusiness symposium. Hey, how do you join the WhatsApp forum? Let me give you this is my number. Just you can reach out, just say, hey, I want to join the WhatsApp forum. We'll send you a link. Yeah, sure. All right. Thank you so much. I don't know, David, if you have any words from today's presentation, any last word?
Thank you. I mean, firstly, just again to say thank you to everyone, to Chifuniro, to the other panelists, to all the attendees. Thank you for making today possible. I think the main thing I would just end on is to really just encourage you all to continue to engage with this process. So we have the next two webinars are focused specifically on key areas. So at the moment, the first two have been quite general in terms of key drivers or introducing Israeli agriculture. The next one is really focused on how Israel manages water in agriculture and the kind of achievements it's achieved there. And then the last session, if I'm not mistaken, is focused similarly on Israel's approach to post-harvest management, which is really crucial. So I think that's the please do continue to engage, because I think these sessions are going to be fascinating. And as Chifuniro said, they're sort of they're sort of building up towards this symposium, this event that we're going to have in Lilongwe in April. So that's not far off now. So I think that'll be really beneficial. The only other thing I would just end on is all the drivers that we've spoken about today that have proved so effective in Israel. Start to think about how you can harness and implement them directly, whether that's organization, whether that's the specific the mindset, or looking towards there was a great question by this understanding around a market-led approach in Malawi. All of these things we're looking to in the future. I can't really say much about it now, but we're looking to obviously run some more programs and projects in Malawi that are much more sort of like on the ground, much more direct. These webinars are more sort of introductory, but obviously they're helpful, but really about trying to see if you can take some of these ideas on board and how they could be beneficial to you. And actually, if just by the by, if anyone does want to learn much more around this and around the Israeli experience specifically, there's a report that we co-authored with the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa and with the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change, which is freely available online. You can find it on our website if you want. And it looks specifically at the key lessons from Israel's agricultural transformation. And I think it's just about sort of seeing how these can be sort of harnessed within and adapted to the Malawian context. But again, so thank you all for joining. It's been fantastic being able to meet you all and speak with you all. And I look forward to doing so again soon. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, David, for just being available, putting your heart into all this. It has been wonderful. Let me mention again, the end of these webinars is the symposium that we have organized. And what we want to do in the symposium, we don't want just to be one of the conferences whatsoever. We want to facilitate the missing linkages that young agripreneurs have been having. So please, let's work together. Just hang up there. Just hang up there, and we'll be there just to give you information that is required on how best you can participate in these webinars, as well as exposing different opportunities. Some of them, they are right here in this country. So that's what we really want to do by the end of business. And the other thing I want to mention is that as we keep drumming up for the Agribiz Symposium, we'll be bringing here other players in the agribusiness ecosystem in Malawi. Like today, we had Professor Wanda from the academia. We are hoping next time we'll have somebody maybe to deal with financing, agri-financing. But all these players, you'll find them at the Agri-Business Symposium. So, wow, we look forward to engaging with you, and join the WhatsApp group, and let's keep working together. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining. Please share the information about the next webinar to all your friends, your networks. We're encouraging as many youth organizations as possible to participate. Thank you so much. Wishing you a very lovely evening. Bye-bye. Thank you.